After searching for 2.5 years to find and to mine new grounds, Parker is finally weighing his first gold from the virgin ground in Alaska. Parker doesn't know what to think, since there was a lot of water coming into the pit multiple times. So far, Parker's crew has only recovered 108 ounces from the old-timer tailings. That's a far cry from his 1,000-ounce target. The crew stands nervously as Parker empties the contents into the weighing scale. Tyler calculates the weight to be 38.6 ounces, worth just $66,000, bringing the Alaska claims total to 147 ounces, worth just $250,000. With more than $500,000 invested in the property, Parker is underwater. A disappointed Parker states that this is not what he was hoping for, but he's glad that he still has a massive operation at Yukon going in full swing because his Alaskan venture failed miserably. Now he is indecisive whether this is worth continuing or not. He analyzes that it's not safe out there with all that rushing water and it's not worth to mine only the bedrock. Parker gives his verdict to discontinue Alaskan operation for the season. Also, whether they continue with this project or find a new one next season is still unresolved, but he promises his crew that no matter what shakes out, he will definitely find a role for all of them if they are coming back the next season. The crew members agree readily. Parker appreciates his crew members for the effort they have put in and all their hard work. Mark comments that there have been a lot of men trying to get that gold, but it was not at all easy, but he is hopeful for the next time. Even Phil is upset because many problems arrived and they managed to flip them to keep the operation running, but still the gold was not enough at all. Tyler is looking at the bright side and states that even if the gold wasn't good, she actually met a team with such amazing work ethics. She is thoroughly relieved that Parker hasn't fired her and is excited about what's next. Parker is clearly shocked and he is not sure whether next year's plan actually involves that particular piece of ground, but he is really impressed by his team because they were the one who managed to overcome the challenges given to them by a painstaking ground. And if they were given a less complicated ground, they would have definitely done wonders. He is really distraught about losing $4 million, but positively, he found new talent, and that's where he feels that his money is well spent. It's a beautiful day in the Yukon Valley, where Parker's crew is all set to hit their gold jackpot. Tatiana is all bubbly and can feel that the colors are changing, and the autumn is about to take its course. She is afraid that when the winter is going to take its toll, then the problems will start arising. Tatiana knows that the time is flying and they still have a lot to cover. In the Yukon, Parker's crew are on the brink of mining out 90 acres of ground, more than ever before. Mitch is overwhelmed by the craziness of this season with the amount of sluicing they have done. He remembers when he reached here and after a couple of days, they fired up wash plants and started washing rocks. They have been going like this as if it was the last day ever since. Mitch is fiercely sluicing up the dirt as he knows that time is short. Meanwhile, Tyson is all hyped up, as well as he knows they are coming to the end of an era where they have been mining here for the last 10 years, and this is the last year they can mine over here, so it's neither now or never. Parker just got back from Alaska and has just shut all his operations over there as it went all terrible over there. An unfortunate Parker had pumped a lot of money into this Alaskan business. However, the water spoiled everything for them. After investing $500,000, Parker barely made half of that in return. Parker still feels quite depressed about that hapless venture, the thing that pulled him away from the place that actually makes money to the hole where the money was dumped. The time has come to make a big final push here in the Yukon. Later, Parker is welcomed by his crew members Tyson and Mitch, and both are very much excited to show him what they have here for him. Looking at their delighted expressions, Parker guesses that his comrades are doing better than they did in Alaska. Parker breaks out the bad news to them that they ended up getting not even a quarter of the cutout because of the water coming out from that dredge pond, and because of that they had to leave most of the pay in the pit. Parker tells them that they have to refigure all that out. He observes that things are appearing better at the Yukon spot, and Sluikfer is pretty close to being done where it's at. They just need to have the pay coming out of the Panama Canal cut, and he guesses that the pay might be thawed by now. 15 weeks ago, Parker tasked Mitch with opening up the Panama Canal cut in the hopes of a quick score, but they were forced to abandon it. This is because the pay had a lot of ice in it, and the sluicer was having difficulty in going through it. All the rock was glued together, and there was a chance of a severe machinery damage. Parker then decided to get out of that place. At present, Parker guesses that the pay dirt had a bunch of time to thaw now since their last visit. He feels that they should throw a couple of people in there with the cats as, according to him, That is not a big piece of ground as far as sluicing goes, but it definitely means another wash plant move. Now at this time of year, those wash plants are not preferred. Still, Parker doesn't want to leave that chunk of ground unmined when the license expires. According to him, that frozen piece of ground is one of the last pieces they have access to, and also lots of gold came out of that area. Mitch and Tyson agree, and Tyson guesses that Parker was expecting more gold from Alaska, and that is the reason he left that frozen piece unmined. However, Parker denies that, and there is an uncomfortable silence. According to Tyson, they would have to get into something pretty quick if they decide to do it. Parker snaps at him that they don't take on things if they don't finish. He is positive that there is some of the season left. After Parker leaves, Mitch comments that they have gotten themselves into a mess, and Tyson agrees that they have a lot to do. Parker knows that Mitch and Tyson are quite busy. Also, they all have a lot in their kitty, but they have already invested most of the money into that pit that it would take to get it done. He knows that all the money go into the drain if they don't extract the gold out of it. Parker's crew is close to completing their 90-acre target with their last 2 cuts of the season. With Slucifer on the final stretch of the payback cut and Big Red churning through the runway cut, now with barely weeks to go in the season, Parker wants them to return to Panama Canal cut, adding an extra 10 acres of ground, increasing their ground to a record 100 acres. Tyson is working on the wash pant pod for the Slucifer back at the Panama Canal cut, trying to throw it together quick fast in a hurry. He feels that it is definitely a game changer. Mitch is glad that Parker is back, and his focus is definitely on the Yukon now, but right now he just threw a huge wrench in their program. Mitch feels that if things would have gone better in Alaska, they wouldn't be scrambling at the moment, and they wouldn't even be considering this project. So definitely running out of days here to get there through wash plants. After some time, Tyson dumps the last bucket of black to the Slucifer. Mitch is satisfied with Tyson's performance after they are done. At Indian River, Parker's crew have finally mined out the payback cut. Now, after Parker dropped the bomb that he wants to sluice an extra 10 acres of ground before winter, Mitch and Tyson must run the Slucifer to the reopened Panama Canal cut. Tyson jokes around whether they are actually done with it or Parker has one more to cut for them. Mitch replies that he doesn't think there is any more dirt left, no matter what he wants to do. Mitch and Tyson need to move the 45-ton wash plant 1.6 miles, their biggest wash plant move of the season. To get to the other end of the claim as fast as possible, they'll drag Slucifer down 1,000 feet of operating runway with light aircraft landing and taking off. Finally, arriving at the Panama Canal, where the plant will be positioned on a 40-foot high pad. After the plant is positioned, Tyson decides to give it a shot. As the Slucifer begins to roll in, Mitch notices that it is feeling very heavy that day. Mitch is moving the plant here fully prepared. Mitch realizes that they certainly do not have time to rest this season before they disassemble the plant for the move and then put it all back together. Mitch is satisfied that the sluice runs are shaking really good, side to side, and that's just because any input given to it just gets amplified throughout the wash plant. However, if the wash plant is jerked a little one way or another, all that energy transfers through. Mitch and Tyson are trying to be as smooth and steady for that reason. Mitch hopes that they don't damage anything during that move. Soon, they are approaching the runway that they built. With no flight scheduled or way of communicating with planes coming into land, Tyson will act as spotter. The last thing they want is to have this wash plant stuck in the middle of the runway and have somebody wanting to land and not being able to, so they are just going to try and get through there with no trouble. Suddenly, Tyson reports to Mitch that he can see a plane coming in, and it seems like it is looping around. Tyson predicts that soon it would be coming in and landing downstream. When they were building the runway, they had no intention of going back to the Panama Canal, and never did they think they would be dragging a fully dressed wash plant down that runway. Tyson peers at the plane and observes that it is heading towards Eureka now, so it might not be coming in for a landing. Mitch is thoroughly relieved. Soon, Mitch declares the runway clear and decides to go for it. Unexpectedly, Tyson spots another plane coming in and warns Mitch about it. Out of the blue, and a white jet plane zooms by quite close to them and hits the runway. Mitch is visibly shaken. Soon the plane lands on the runway, and Mitch also decides to hit the runway. He asks Tyson to keep his head on a swivel if he sees anybody else coming in. Tyson glues his eyes on the sky. Mitch roars in the wash plant before any other plane comes circling in. Tyson alerts Mitch that he will be catching the sluices on the runway and decides to dig a little more out of that end. Mitch tells Tyson to go in there and widen it out as much as he can. Slucifer is 32 feet wide wing to wing, so Tyson has to widen their lower road a little bit there. He clears up the debris away from the runway so that the Slucifer can make it by. They're doing pretty well as long as moving the plant is concerned, but tearing a wing off could change all that very quickly. Mitch steers the plant and tries to keep it right down the center very carefully as they don't have room for any error. Parker and his crew made some crazy finds this year, but there was this problem that really got him and his crew amazed. Were they about to make a life-changing find? Let's take a look. Suddenly, Tyson alerts Mitch that they have something in the distance over there to the west and urges Mitch to get the plant up there as quickly as possible. Mitch steers the plant as fast as he can and soon gets the Slucifer past the dreaded runway. More than 2 hours after starting the move, Mitch and Tyson reach their final destination, that is the Panama Canal, but the worst is not over yet. Now for the hardest part of this whole deal is to get that heavy wash plant up on top of that path and getting it in place. Mitch asks Tyson to jump on that pad and help him guide the plant into place. Tyson readily hops in. However, Mitch is having great trouble steering that monstrous beauty. Tyson realizes as the Slucifer climbs up about how heavy it is as Mitch struggles to pull it up even on a 750. While Slucifer on the pad, Mitch must rotate it 90 degrees into the position. Tyson continuously guides Mitch, positioning the Slucifer. After they are done, Mitch leads out a triumphant chuckle, declaring that as the last Slucifer wash plant move of the year. Both men high-five each other in sheer delight. All that is left is to connect the 120-foot-long super stacker that feeds pay to the plant and fire up. In no time, the wash plant leads out a merry roar and Mitch asks Tyson to throw some dirt in the plant. Soon, the first scoop from the Panama Canal goes through the Slucifer. Now all they have to do is check whether it contains any gold. Meanwhile, Parker is discussing with Dumit about his failed venture in Alaska and how it makes him feel like a loser. However, Dumit tries to show him the positive side about the number of winners they have had up and down the river. However, Parker still seems to be in a pit when he says that it seems to him that all that success was sheer luck and is afraid that this is how everything will be going in the future. Dumit agrees that when one is the winner after 4 consecutive years, then a single defeat can be quite agonizing. Parker mentions that relatively speaking they didn't lose much, but still it was a lot of money. Dumit hopes that they can make it up for the loss up here on the Indian River. Dumit encourages Parker that he has got a great track record, so he must not let that one setback dampen his spirit. Later, Tyson and Mitch also join Parker and Dumit at the Scribner's Creek for the final weigh of the week. So far this season, Parker's Yukon crew has banked just under 6,000 ounces, still way short of last year's 8 300-ounce gold haul. Mitch comments that it has been quite a week. Now with the latest cold from 3 different cuts, it's time to see how close he is to a record season. Firstly, Dumit brings up a flask containing the contents of the Big Red on the runway cut. He pours the gold flakes on the weigh scale, and the contents weigh up to 300 ounces, worth over $500,000. Next up is Slucifer's last gold from the payback cut. Dumit empties the contents on the weigh scale, and they weigh up to 109.9 ounces, almost $190,000. Parker is relieved that the cut went fine. Nothing special, but consistent. Finally, Dumit brings up Slucifer's first gold from the Panama Canal cut. Mitch comments that they almost had an airplane land on the pre-washed Slucifer. Parker wonders who has the right of way when one is moving a wash plant across the runway. Mitch and Tyson joke around that they thought the same. Dumit states that a little bit of gold was managed to be extracted from that cut. He empties the contents on the weigh scale and they account for 159 ounces, which is not bad at all considering that they didn't put that much hours on sluicing up that cut. Just 3 days of sluicing has delivered $270,000 of gold, bringing their season total to 6708 ounces in total. To beat last season's record haul, Parker now needs his Panama Canal gamble to keep paying off. Soon, the crew heads on to sluice more as they have bigger targets to achieve for the season.